Joining us now to analyze today's headlines is Rahul Mahajan, sociologist and author of Full Spectrum Dominance, U.S. Power in Iraq and Beyond. Hi, Rahul.
Hi, Sonali.
The U.S. launched an airstrike on Libya yesterday, apparently killing Mukhtar Belmokhtar, an Algerian-born al-Qaeda leader believed to have led a 2013 gas plant attack that killed 38 foreign hostages. The strike was the U.S.'s first such action since it led a NATO operation in 2011 to oust Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Since then, Libya has been racked by internal strife and the advance of the Islamic State group. Unnamed officials speaking to the New York Times confirmed that surveillance drones were used to track Mr. Belmokhtar and that he was targeted because he was, quote, believed to pose a threat against American and Western interests. Previously, the U.S. had captured wanted rebel leaders such as Abu Anas al-Libi, who was implicated in the 1998 U.S. embassy attacks in Kenya and Tanzania, and Ahmed Abu Khatala, suspected to be behind the 2012 U.S. embassy attack in Benghazi. Well, Rahul, doesn't killing off al-Qaeda leaders extrajudicially simply lead to stronger, more militant leadership? And isn't that what we're seeing with ISIS?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing with the United States, and it's been true ever since the Bush administration, but it's actually been dramatically exacerbated under Obama, is that we're going to intervene in all of these countries violently on a regular, ongoing basis, but we're going to do nothing to help them actually provide governance. And of course, when you add another actor that is bombing people from the sky, and they're not actually trying to do anything to help stabilize the situation, they're actually destabilizing the situation further. So the United States is undermining the kind of governance that these countries need in order to eventually get some kind of handle on this freelance violence. And it's, deluding itself into believing that killing individuals who are committing it is somehow producing a disincentive, when the truth is that the situation on the ground is such that it's going to produce any number of new militants.
Right. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has launched peace talks on Yemen in Geneva today. Mr. Ban hopes to launch a 2-week ceasefire, drawing in Saudi Arabia into negotiations. He said, quote, "Today, Yemen's very existence hangs on the balance. While the parties bicker, Yemen burns," end of quote. The Saudis have launched a fierce U.S.-backed war against the poorest nation in the Persian Gulf, which borders it. Embattled Yemeni President Abdurabu Mansour Hadi has taken refuge inside Saudi Arabia. But the Saudis continued bombing Yemen overnight in the lead-up to the Geneva talks. On Friday, airstrikes destroyed a 2,500-year-old cultural heritage site in the capital, Sana'a. Several residents were also killed and 5 houses destroyed. Saudi Arabia denied dropping the bombs and instead blamed the Houthi rebels who have taken over the country. UNESCO head Irina Bokova said, quote, "I'm profoundly distressed by the loss of human lives, as well as the damage inflicted on one of the world's oldest jewels of Islamic urban landscape." Well, Rahul, the Saudis now seem to have something more in common with ISIS and the Taliban with the destruction of this 2,500-year-old UNESCO site, assuming it was their airstrike that did it. Do you have any hope that the UN talks in Geneva could bear fruit?
Oh, I mean, this is not new for the Saudis. They have been systematically destroying the pieces of Islamic heritage within Saudi Arabia for decades now. So if it was a deliberate strike, it must be the Saudis, because the Houthis, as Zaidi-type Shias, are probably not so into iconoclasm. With regard to the UN talks, again, I think that there's not very much muscle behind any attempt at a resolution. Right now, there's a warfare in which both sides seem to think that they are advancing their interests. Obviously, the Houthis have taken over a big chunk of Yemen. The Saudis are engaging in a muscular foreign policy that involves, direct use of Saudi troops for the first time in the post-war era. So all sides seem to be, satisfying their interests as they perceive them.
And finally, President Obama suffered a serious political defeat on Friday when the House could not muster enough votes to pass fast-track authority for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP. Saying that U.S. workers needed a better deal, many Democrats defied the president and voted against it in what organized labor considers a major victory. Presidential candidate Hillary Clinton finally spoke out about the TPP after a long silence. Desperate to win support, she had a measured, if vague, response, saying that any trade deal signed into law should protect American workers and raise wages. But writing in the Washington Post, Larry Summers, a former key economic advisor to Obama, said, quote, repudiation of the TPP would neuter the U.S. presidency for the next 19 months. It would reinforce global concerns that the vicissitudes of domestic politics are increasingly rendering the United States a less reliable ally, end of quote. Democrats like Obama and Summers are joining with Republicans to claim that the TPP will be good for American workers. Well, Rahul, the House vote on Friday was only a temporary defeat for the TPP, right? And if so, what's next?
Well, it's hard to say. So right now, you see commentators saying, well, this is the end for the TPP, and you see people saying, well, it's just the preparation for the next step. It's very hard to know which way Obama would go, although I think that it's fair to say that the amount of political capital he's staked on the TPP means that he's probably not going to give up right away. He should really take a lesson, though, from Bill Clinton and the passage of NAFTA. I mean, it's not that the Democratic Party is some sort of great moral exemplar, but when a Democratic president is trying to pass major legislation against the massed opposition of his own party and depending on the support of Republicans, he needs to think at least twice, if not 10 times, about what he's doing.
Rahul, thanks as always for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week.
See you then.
Rahul Mahajan is a sociologist and author of Full Spectrum Dominance, U.S. Power in Iraq and Beyond. This is Uprising. We'll be right back.